We are so back, ladies and gentlemen. As at the time of recording this video, we are T minus 15 days until the Hall of Fame game in Canton, Ohio. Right up the road from me, about 5 hours in Canton, Ohio. Um, Football's coming. All right, whether you like it or not. All-Star game happened in baseball. I had the best round of golf of my life a couple weeks ago, so I'm never golfing again. And now it's football season. Okay, so we have to accept it now. That even though we're still a little bit out, college football 26 just came out. I don't own a console, so I can't play it. But people are it's stouting up. All right, we're shoveling the coal and the wheels are turning. And tonight we are going to break down before training camp officially begins. We are going to talk about training camp battles and eventually who's going to stout. We're going to predict some of these training camp battles before a snap of training camp has been done. So, before we get into all of that, Will, how are you?
I'm here. I am ready to talk some ball. And that's about it, Jordan. I just want to talk about the purple team. I think let's just do that.
I love it. I love it. Well, let's jump in. Let's talk about some potential battles that we're going to see throughout training camp because there are a lot of question marks. I'm going to kick it off with my new tradition on this show. I don't trust Makai Blackman as far as I can throw him. Who's going to be cornerback 2? I guess cornerback 3 is the real question, but I don't know. Like, Byron Murphy should be a slot guy, and then who's going to be the other boundary corner, in my opinion, is the question. I think Isaiah Rogers is penciled in right now, but I don't think again, penciled in. I don't think he is. It's not written in ink. It's that could change pending camp. But you have Makai Blackman, Nudie McLaughlin. I mean, for legal reasons, I have to say Jeff Okuda, but I don't think he really should be included in this. And so I'm curious to see how that one's going to play out because obviously I've said it once, I've said it a million times on this show. We need good secondary play, and I don't know that Makai Blackman off an ACL is going to be better than he was 2 years ago when he already was like mid. So we'll see. But what are your thoughts on the defensive backs?
I'm glad you started with this one because it doesn't, start and end with the DBs on this defense, but what the guys up front, which I think we both believe are going to be a really good front seven. I think for all intents and purposes, they're going to be a, top 5, top 10 at worst front seven. They're going to be very good barring injuries. Um their effectiveness really only can go so far if the defensive backs are in flux. And that discussion I think bleeds a little bit into the safety position because I think if you've watched as we have and the people who are listening to this have, how Brian Flores plays defense, yes, he runs a 3-4, but it's not cut and dry 3-4. It's not 3D linemen, 4 linebackers and 2 cornerbacks and 2 safeties. It's a mishmash of all of it, and you're going to get packages with 4 outside linebackers. You're going to get packages with 3 or 4 safeties. It's just depending on what personnel he wants out there, it's going to morph and change. And so I think this discussion also includes Theo Jackson in some way and just how much run he's going to get. Now, what I do think and why I bring up Theo Jackson is not because I think he is going to be, on the outside looking in. I mean, they extended the guy. He's got a couple more years on his contract now. They clearly believe in him enough to say goodbye to Cam Bynum. And although they have Metellus and they have Harrison Smith, they intend Theo Jackson to play a big role in this defense. And so, depending on how big that role is and depending on how healthy Harrison Smith is, these cornerback threes that we're talking about, the Jeff Okudas and Makai Blackmans and Nudie McLaughlins, they might not see the field as much as you might traditionally think for, a defense that you would imagine needs 2 to 3 starting cornerbacks. So all that said, sort of as my initial off-the-cuff disclaimer, I think Nudie McLaughlin is the leader in the clubhouse here. I mean, we've talked about this guy so much on this show. Who is he? Like the best cover corner in college football since, or other than Travis Hunter in the last X number of years. I mean, he turned heads last season. Saw the field for a few snaps last year, nothing meaningful, but I think he is a guy that I am looking to, like we talked about on our last couple shows, to make that incremental step up. And I think if I had to decide today who's going to be, the third cornerback behind Isaiah Rodgers and obviously Byron Murphy Jr., it's him.
I think that's. I hope that you are correct. I want to see Nudie take that jump, and I think he's already became a fan favorite, which I don't want to say it's tough to do, but it's difficult to do with no playing time. Like you'll just kind of, in the limited snaps that he got, I think people liked what they saw, and so and also he has that stat that I need to find that graphic. Like I need to go back to my YouTube, watch history and find it, screen cap it, edit it so it looks like I made it, and then post it on the show or whatever. But yeah, I mean like he was really good in college. Now granted that I don't necessarily know that college being good in college doesn't necessarily translate to the NFL, right? Like that's a given. But yeah, I think I have more faith in him right now than I do in Mekhi Blackman off an ACL, and I want to be proven wrong about Blackman. I'm curious. You talking about the safety position? I'm curious if Harrison Smith will be on like a snap count, like, and that's a conversation that differs from the agenda that we've got in front of us. But I think it's worth having that. Like, let me give you the question this way: Harrison Smith's snap count, is that disrespectful to him? After all that he's done for the team, or is that like? Do you think he would be okay with that, or do you think he would be like, this is? Would his wife get angry like Adam Thielen's wife, and then he'll go waste away in Carolina for the last few years of his career? Like, which way do you think it goes?
I think it goes the former. I think I would even dare to say that a snap limit or having a ceiling on his snaps, however you want to categorize it, I think that's best for the team. And let me be clear on that. It's not because I think Harrison Smith can't play anymore. I mean, he's obviously aging, but how he played last season was still very good. Um, Not only does it bode well for, this season, if you get, a significant amount of snaps for Jackson and obviously Metellus, and having those guys do the lion's share of the lifting, you then get the best version of Harrison Smith for his, 60% of the snaps that you have him out there for. And then for the future, that also just helps those two guys, the Theo and the Metellus, and hopefully we re-sign Josh Metellus. But for those guys looking forward to the future, because somebody has to take the mantle of what Harrison Smith has been for this defense for 12 years. It's 13 years, whatever it is now. I mean, he's been the quarterback of the defense, and ideally, yes, that could be Blake Cashman. It'd be awesome if it was Ivan Pace. But if you want somebody to step into that role of, being the guy in the back who sees everything before it happens, you would love for one of those two other guys to step in and take that, take it in stride this season, going into next season. So I think it could be best not only for now, but also for future.
Yeah, I think I agree with that, and I this is all very pie in the sky. Like, ultimately, I think the team will make the decision, similar to what they did with Thielen in, his last year, where it was like, okay, the offense isn't going to be so much it's Jefferson and Thielen. It's going to be more it's Jefferson, and we're going to go get Hawkinson, and it's going to be more those two guys, and Dalvin Cook. Like, it's going to run through those three, and Thielen's more another guy, he kind of fell off, if you want to say that or whatever. And so I could see them saying, hey, Harrison, you're not there, so we're going to bring you in. We're going to use you in some interesting ways. You're still going to be a chess piece. We want your intelligence out there, and like you said, being the QB of the defense and everything. But I don't know. It'll be interesting, and that's a neat talking point. I think I want to get to. Oh,
I
go ahead.
think there's really quickly. I think there's also just a world where Harrison Smith is still awesome this year,
I hope so.
and I think there's still a chance that this whole discussion is moot because he's still just awesome and deserves to play 85% of the snaps, and everything we just talked about doesn't matter.
I think that's also on the table. I like that's the thing with like really old guys though is like yeah, like there's a chance he, I don't want to say Tom Brady because that's disrespectful to Tom Brady who played until he was, 45 or whatever, but like there's a chance that he's Brady and he comes out and he's still you can tell that there's something missing, but it's like no, he's still like one of the best and there's also a chance that he's more Peyton Manning. And it's like, oh no, we gotta Chad Greenway. Like I remember his last season was like, oh man, like we should really
It's time.
invest in a linebacker early in the draft.
Yeah.
Like and free agency. Let's get to you. Like let's have you throw some position battles out.
Yeah, let's talk offense, Jordan. I think we could, unless you have a specific position you want to dig into on defense. I'm curious what you think about the third wide receiver. It's, obviously everybody loves offense, everybody loves wide receivers. This team is very good at wide receiver. Um, what do you think? Obviously, there's Jefferson and then Addison, barring suspension. Who's three? Who's the third one?
I think I'm undecided. It's such a. I want to say it's Nalo. Nalo had a few drops last year. I don't want to say like it's hard to know if a guy has like splashy games because he's inconsistent. If he has like most splashy games because he is just that's the way the game plan shook out. You know what I mean? Like if it's more of like we're just not gonna use him so much, and he's not. He's more of a decoy on most plays. He's like, hey, you take your guy off the field and we'll play 10 on 10 this drive or whatever. And so I want it to be Naylor just because he's been here and I love the traits and also he looks like the flipping Terminator. Oh, he looked like the Terminator coming out at, OTAs or whatever, but I really like Ty Felton and I know it's lazy because he also I believe went to Maryland, but like golly man, doesn't it feel like a Diggs situation where it's like the Maryland wide receiver could have went to a bigger school, stuck with Maryland because it was like close to home or whatever his reasoning was, and the Vikings get him middle of the draft, and he comes in and he just, I mean, it took Diggs a few games, but I think that was more Mike Zimmer than it was Stephon Diggs. So I like Felton a lot, and I don't want to say that I think I'm rooting how you are rooting for Nudie McLaughlin, or we both are. I'm rooting for Ty Felton to win the job. Honorable mention Rondale Moore, who also plays for the Vikings, if you've forgotten, because I have. I was reminded again tonight that, that Rondale Moore also plays for the Vikings. It'll be interesting to see how he mixes into it, but I think that's going to be a really fun battle because wide receiver battles are the most fun to watch. Like them and QBs are the most, it's like, oh yeah, like even with no pads on, you can still watch them competing. Who ran the best routes? Who made the crazy one-handed catch? Who got into a fist fight at practice with Jeff Okuda? Like that kind of stuff. And so that's going to be interesting. But I'm interested to hear what you say.
Yeah, it's gonna be so fun. I also think, not that it doesn't matter, but this team is gonna keep five receivers. I mean, at least. And so probably all three of those guys make the team. Um, there's also, if Addison does get suspended, he's in trial this week in Los Angeles. Like, if he gets convicted, which who knows, we're not going to speculate. If he gets convicted, chances are the league probably suspends him for 3 games. You got to have somebody step up. In that case, you're probably going to have Naylor be the second receiver because of familiarity, because of literal strength, and because of just his ability to take the top off the defense. And in some ways, he's a veteran. This is his fourth NFL season, and he's healthy. Um, you would love to see Rondale Moore just step in and just be the guy he was in Arizona, but he had an ACL. He missed all of last season. Who knows? I mean, he could come back and be awesome too, but can you bank on that for week 1? Probably
Right.
not. Um, so, I think I think this is probably a battle that we're going to see throughout the year. And you're probably going to see moments where, let's say, one of the top 2 guys gets nicked up, misses half a game, um, Addison gets suspended, whatever. You're going to see games where Felton turns in a Tristan Jackson like performance against Atlanta and gets that, clutch 2-point conversion with the Josh Dobbs game. There's going to be moments like that where you're like, "Oh, that guy's still on our team. I forgot about him and he just made an awesome play." Because I think not that these 3 are going to be interchangeable. Like I think like we're both agreeing here, Naylor's probably the leader in the clubhouse to get the most snaps between those 3. But I think you could find yourself in week 11 and, some guys are banged up and you put one of these guys in. I mean, we saw it with Brandon Powell. We've seen it with guys who we didn't really think about, and then they end up making impact plays. So I also think a big part of this in terms of just snaps and field time is which of them can make an impact in special teams. That's probably not going to be Naylor. That's never been him in the NFL. So maybe he would return some punts, like he was kind of the backup option. But I don't think anybody really trusts him returning punts. Just thinking back to Green Bay last year, just heart skipping a beat. But I mean, Ty Felton and Rondale both have the ability to impact the game in special teams, and so that is I would say, important piece of this that shouldn't be overlooked. So I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a season-long thing, and in some ways, I don't really care who sort of emerges from that. Ideally, Ty Felton, just because he's a rookie, and you get more runway with him. Depending on what they decide to do with Addison in the next couple of seasons. If you trade Addison, you could, pencil this young guy in there to kind of become the next Addison in terms of snaps and catches and all that. But that's also just a tall task. Jordan Addison is awesome. He'd be wide receiver 1 for a lot of teams. So
That's why we should trade him to Carolina for Adam Thielen and a first or second round pick. And we have the retirement tour, and every city he goes to, like they give him like a seat, like from the stadium or something.
exactly.
Like Adam Thielen has the same impact as like a Derek Jeter, right? For me he does in my house. But this will be my final thing that I say on this, and just sticking on the offensive side. I do like that the defense is mainly nailed down. Like aside from like who's going to be the other boundary corner, kind of some safety discussion, stuff like that. I like that. You'll note that we didn't bring up, the left guard spot. That was intentional by me, and we'll talk about why, later in the show for the podcast next week for the video audience. Kind of why we didn't talk about that, because we're going to talk about who we think is going to stout. And I think that position, it's technically going to be a camp battle. I think it's already, I think it's over. I think it was over in Detroit. No, not in Detroit, in Arizona, after Los Angeles just ate our offensive line alive last season. And so, those of you that are hip to the Vikings and, know who all the draft picks were, who I'm going to say is going to stout. But my mid-show thoughts, final thoughts, whatever you want to call them, I'm just going to say it would be really cool if Ty Felton did break out early, because I do think there is a discussion to be had about trading Jordan Addison at the deadline this year to bring in an impact whatever. Like, obviously I don't know what that position is. Every team is a Super Bowl contender right now because there hasn't been a snap of real football played, but bring in, a really good defensive back, bring in, maybe we do need a safety, we can get that, and also just stack some picks for next year's draft to make this team even better, moving forward. So that's my final thoughts is, don't be I'm going to pound that table a lot this season. If any of these wide receivers show me a hint of like, yeah, they could do what Jordan Addison does, I think. Like, and so that's that'll be my mid-show final, whatever you want to call them, thoughts.
Fantastic. I like that one. Not that I want Addison to be gone, but I think there's just an element of team building that you're limited and you only have so much money to throw around,
Yep.
and you're ideally going to be paying JJ McCarthy at some point. You can't pay everybody. Um,
Well, the Bengals did it.
the Bengals did. We'll see how that works out for them. Um, my final mid-show thoughts are just some things to just pay attention to. They're not necessarily going to be camp battles or even, related to the starting lineup come week 1, but I do think something to keep an eye on is if Aaron Jones maybe loses a third of a step, a half a step, do we see Jordan Mason taking more than half the snaps as the season progresses? That's not going to be the case as it starts, but could that happen as the season goes on? In some ways, that would be the ideal scenario. If you're seeing Jordan Mason overcome Aaron Jones, that theoretically would be the ideal scenario for the Vikings. Um, the younger guy with more force, all that. There's a whole conversation to be had with that, but that could be an interesting thing moving forward. The other thing, this is a really spicy take, but like we've talked about, Andrew Van Ginkel was awesome last year. He's had a good career when he plays with Brian Flores. He's a really good player, obviously. Pro Bowler last season, deserved the contract extension. But just an open question I'm going to leave and then we'll break. Does Dallas Turner overtake him in terms of snaps as the season goes on? It's something to ponder. Um, I think we're going to see a big jump from Dallas Turner, and I don't know. It could be really interesting. I think Jonathan Grenard is that guy, and I think he's got his spot. But does Dallas Turner kind of grow and, become more of an equal with Andrew Van Ginkel as the season goes on? I think that's going to be interesting to monitor. On the podcast side, we'll take a brief break. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Subscribe to the video and do all that stuff. Click the alerts so you get the emails and stuff when we release a new video, all that cool stuff. We'll also then be dropping the second half of this video next week. We'll be talking about the starting lineups, as Jordan said. And if you just can't wait to hear our starting lineup thoughts, jump over to your favorite podcast app and you can catch it all there. Oh, y'all.